What's up, guys? I'm back with another movie review. Today I'm talking about one from Severin Films, and this is a documentary called Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. So it's a really long title. It's a really cool movie. It basically details the production of the 1996 version of The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is, of course, turned out to be a pretty shitty movie overall. And there was a lot of details about the troubled production came out at the time, but like nowhere near the scale of kind of what's revealed in this movie. This one starts off by having, giving us some detail about Richard Stanley, his life and his filmmaking up to that point, and then kind of how it was his dream to make The Island of Dr. Moreau and how this like intense connection he had to the material. And then eventually, he works his way into getting, a chance to make the movie. And then it's just kind of like a constant fight with the corporate entities on wanting to dumb down the vision and to make it more palatable. And just, eventually leading to what was supposed to be kind of a smaller scale intimate shoot turning into this huge big budget, situation just kind of overwhelmed Stanley. And he ended up being replaced by John Frankenheimer. And the movie just details every step along the way of what happened, and then of course covers the aftermath of the legacy of the film and what happened to Stanley after it was over. This is a really cool movie. I have an intense interest in the situation of like creative people battling the commercial aspect of making art, making movies. So this was really interesting to me because it was such a huge part of why all this happened was money and egos, and what could have been like this amazing, unique, one-of-a-kind vision ended up being this kind of like just run-of-the-mill bland movie just because of money and people who didn't want to work with a guy who was a little bit eccentric. And it's just interesting to hear about the money issues, the creative struggles, the power struggles on the set, especially the stories about Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer, especially interesting here, but just the entire like arc that Richard Stanley goes through from being like having his dream like in his hands, and like he actually starts to shoot the movie and then just everything goes wrong. And it's really, for me, it was almost heartbreaking because you could see the passion that he had for the project, and you don't see that a lot in movies. You might see guys who are interested in the stories or whatever, but to see that like raw passion is pretty rare in filmmaking. And it was just really cool to see that, even though of course it ended up having a not so happy outcome to it. But it's a super interesting story. It's got a lot of great first-hand interviews, which I love. There's only a couple critics early on, who had nothing to do with the movie. Once the kind of intro is over, it focuses on people who were directly involved in the production. You get to hear from the cast and crew, from like the big name. Now, you don't get to hear from like the big names, but you get to hear from like Fairuza Balk and some of the people who had prominent roles as Beast People, as well as people who worked on the production side of things that weren't in front of the camera. So there's a pretty big scope of people here, and if you take all their perspectives combined, you can get a pretty good overview of what kind of really happened. Richard Stanley still says that this is not a super accurate look, and that it's kind of skims over some of the like darker elements of the movie or of the movie making process. But it's a really interesting, well-made documentary that definitely hold your interest, even if you're not interested in documentaries normally. Anyone who has an interest in film, anybody who has an interest in the creative process, or just that battle between art and commerce, this is a great documentary to check out. The Blu-ray from Severin Films looks really good. I can't recommend this enough. I just think it's a great release, and I'm really glad that we have a chance to get it on Blu-ray. So if you're, like I said, if you're interested in any of those things, you should definitely check it out. I've also got a full write-up on Lost Soul on my website, markfusion.com. I've also got a full write-up on The Other World, which is another release from Severin Films. That's actually a documentary made by Richard Stanley, and that's definitely worth checking out. And I feel the two dovetail together really well, that Lost Soul segues right into The Other World really well. So definitely check those out. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at MarkFusion. You can also go to my Patreon and get exclusive content if you want to. But the best way you can help me out is free and easy. Crisp, just silky smooth. All you gotta do is hit that sub button. It helps me out immensely. Every single sub counts. So definitely do that if you like these videos. If not, that's okay too. I don't mind. I'm just glad that you watched this one. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon.